Well, here we go. It is that time.
Yeah,
So
we should be all set. We've got everybody on and we're live everywhere.
right on. Well, hey, thanks everybody, and glad you could take and come on. So I'm going to take and go ahead and get over to our main screen now. That way we can come through and we'll start this. We'll start this show going. So, Chris, we got good audio, video, everything else.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Well, hey, Barry, welcome.
Hey, thanks, man. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It was a great day. Doug, welcome.
Hi, Renny. How are you today?
Good. Wonderful. So, today's going to be a pretty cool segment, and I've got a couple really good friends of mine and entrepreneurs. And the reason why I brought both these gentlemen on is they're both at two different levels and two different reasons. There's two different purposes to their businesses. And so I thought it would be fun. And I kind of sit in the middle. I've built a lot of big businesses and so forth. I've been happy with those businesses and sad with those businesses. But I wanted to kind of it's a different input and a different way of thinking for both of them. So I wanted to bring this in, and so we could kind of share from both opinions. So real quickly, before we launch in and I introduce these gentlemen and have them share, right now is a great time to kind of just rethink everything in life and to kind of figure out where you've been, where those roads were right and where those roads were wrong, and then where you're going. I mean, we've got some downtime. Most people that I'm in contact with are taking advantage of this downtime and having, really heart-to-hearts with themselves. And so, maybe your business wasn't quite on the right track, and maybe even you didn't want to admit it, but deep down you knew it. Maybe it's a good time to rethink your business. And again, this is why we've brought these two individuals into the meeting today. So Barry and Doug, before we go, I love this. What positives in the last 2-3 weeks, we've had a crazy world. What kind of positives have you guys brought out of this into your businesses and into your life? So Barry, let's start with you.
For me, the positives is I began to just sit back a little bit. We're kind of reevaluating everything that we did, and we're catching up on older projects. I mean, this was, obviously money's not coming in the way we'd like to see it, but it's coming in. But at the same time, it's given us a chance here to do a lot of things. One of the things was we actually had another office here locally, like in our building, that we wanted to separate. I'm one of those guys like that. I feel better when I'm working by myself and doing certain things by myself. And we currently share an office, obviously, as you can see, but so we decided to finally move on that project, get that done so I can get into an office and begin to focus on things. Scott's got his thing going. I got my thing going. So that's one of the things that we decided to do. Another was just sit back, work on each other, try to improve on the little things that we can and reevaluate, look at some different marketing ideas. And believe it or not, we actually added 3 new products, I think it is, in the last week and a half. We thought, what, now's downtime when everybody else is trying to slow down and maintain. We're just going to keep pushing forward, stay positive. That was huge.
I like it. Doug, what about from your perspective?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. And I love to hear other people's comments on this. So I've basically, from a positive standpoint, I look at it as this: I have shut down not just my business physically. I've just shut it down in my mind. It's not even anything I'm even thinking about. I'm not thinking about marketing. I am just immediately just getting out of my head. And it's really what it does is it clears your head. Anyone that has a business, no matter how big or small, no matter what you're doing, it's always in your head somewhere, back of your head, subconsciously, something's popping in your head in and out. So what I have done is just decided to mentally shut it down completely and really focus just on my day-to-day schedule, day-to-day things that I want to do, have to do still. And it just kind of gave me a different perspective. I mentioned to someone, it's kind of like being retired without having a check coming in,
Yeah.
But it is, because you have this full day, and how are you going to spend it, and what are you going to do? So and I'll get back into the mindset of business when I feel it's necessary. But it's kind of like where I'm at right now.
Well, it's so two different perspectives, because Barry, you're in the midst of building, your micro empire, right? And I say micro because that's what basically anybody at our level, it really is a micro when you look at the huge companies out there, that Microsoft and those guys. And then you've got Doug, that is a lifestyle guy. His business is about, he's had a career, this supports his lifestyle. Yesterday I was up, we went hiking, I took my brother up. Matter of fact, where this picture was taken yesterday. You can see the background. We're sitting there, we're having a great conversation. We sat there for about an hour and just talked and visited. And I told my brother, I said, it's right now, for the first time in my life, I've got a chance to reset everything in my head. I've got a chance. If I go out and I overwork at this point, it's 100% my fault. If I don't get my life right after this, basically I'm an idiot. Is because, this is a reset for the world. It's not a setback for me and my company. It wasn't something that I did. It wasn't something that the U.S. government did. It wasn't so that we're no matter what you believe, why this went down, we've all got a chance to reset and come out of this. And I'll tell you, having celebrating a birthday yesterday. Matter of fact, my wife, my daughter, my brother, we all celebrated birthdays in the last, week and a half. And when you celebrate a birthday, especially as you get older, is that you start realizing that, so much of the stuff that I've put myself through is bullshit. It really is. And I've got a chance right now to take that slate, to take the canvas of my life and make it what I want and own it. So, I think that it's a good time to kind of everybody I feel bad people are suffering right now. And I feel bad that people are dying and losing family. I lost 4 friends last week, from different reasons, but 4 friends. And it's devastating because you can't see each other. You can't go, what are we going to do for a memorial? It's unbelievable. So Barry, tell us about yourself real quick, not just about your businesses, but go back a ways, how you got into the detailing, but tell us before you jump into the business side, guys, I want to know who Barry is.
Oh, wow. Before a business. This is all I know. Truthfully, I'll go back as far as high school, I guess. Growing up, I was always an athletic, competitive guy. Obviously, I don't hide the fact that I have dyslexia. Education was always a challenge for me. I was one of those guys that I hated school. I didn't understand why I struggled to read and comprehend things when other people just passed it on. Up until about eighth grade, I met a lady that changed my life. Her name was Mrs. Slosher. She was a school teacher. She's the one who found my dyslexia, began to work on it with me. Eventually through high school, things improved. It took a lot of work, a lot of struggle, but I still struggle today with dyslexia. But now my friends have grown to adapt to it, and, people online laugh at it. So it's cool. I turned a negative into a positive just by learning to laugh at that disability. Grew up caddying on a golf course in the summertime. Wintertime, I was a roller skater. Most people wouldn't believe that if I told them that today. But I worked in a skate room. I was one of those floor guards at a roller rink in the, I guess you could say the early 90s. I had some cool experiences as a youth. One of them was there was a professional golfer named Jim Furyk. I had a chance to caddy for him before he was famous at the local country club here where we grew up in. Today he's on the tour, one of the best golfers in the world. Probably still the ugliest swing in the world, but he's a hell of a golfer. Through there, I, like everybody else, I did some dumb things that you shouldn't have. I was fortunate enough. I've had, one of my friends, that I grew up with as a kid. He now coaches the Chicago Bears, Matt Nagy. We grew apart from each other a little bit, but, so I had some cool things there, I guess you could say, in my life. I went to the military. I served as 11 Bravo in the infantry, got out. Confused, no idea what to do. I was detailing cars. I grew up in a small town. called Manheim, Pennsylvania. Cars are everywhere. The largest auto auction here. Today, Manheim Auctions is owned by Cox Enterprises, who owns pretty much everything you could think of and then some. And I was always surrounded by cars. I got out of the military, tried a few jobs, went back into detailing. Detailing was something I also did through high school as well. And, in a town full of wholesale people, I tried to venture out into working on my own and doing high-end detailing. And I found myself getting back into wholesale. Along the way, Renny, I met awesome dudes. I mean, I really did. I worked with Tunch Gorn for a couple of years at 3D. I had the privilege, like last week, you had Jason Rose on. Jason's a phenomenal dude, man. Phenomenal guy. I had a chance to work with him a few times, and just, I always disagree. I think the rotary cuts more, and he'll say the DA cuts more, inside joke between him and I. But phenomenal dude, smart man. When he comes to anything dual action polishing and teaching detailing, Jason's just, he'll blow your mind, and he's a nice guy. So I got into detailing, had a chance to meet a couple people along the way. About 3 years ago, I think was one of the hardest changes in my life. We sat down, me and my partner, and we said, hey, let's build SB3. We literally celebrated 3 years, April 1st this year. So had a chance to finally close my detail shop and focus on SB3. And I think the growth of SB3 started when we said, hey, we're going to walk away from detailing. I had to trade one passion for the next. And the thing about detailing for me was it just, it gave me a chance to meet people, Renny. And I think you're one of them guys that understand this. You get out to these shows, these events, and you work with people and you talk to people and you get to know them. It allows me to give back to the community. It allows me to give back, to the detailing industry. Detailing's, I never thought, hey, I'm going to detail cars where I'd be today. But from charitable work, you name it. I've worked with kids in high school. I taught, like 2 years ago, I worked with our local school community, and we had this guy that was, he a troubled youth, came from an inner city. I had a chance to meet with him, brought him in. I showed him how to polish paint and work with him for I think it was 2 or 3 days. And then I contacted some people, just in the industry, random people. They were throwing supplies, chemicals. This kid had a whole detailing business in front of him to this day. Handed to him, and I got to train him while he was in school. That was awesome. Gave back to, little donations here and there, things like that. But it's been a pure blessing. I don't know how else to say it, man. Ups, downs, lefts, rights, whatever you want to throw at us. At the end of the day, detailing it's been a staple in my life, and it always will be. No doubt about it.
That's awesome. So Doug, what about you? You've got an interesting background. Now, ironically, you guys are both from PA. Is that cool or what?
I'm from the better side of Pennsylvania, Renny. We got the Eagles and the Flyers out here.
I knew you were going to say Eagles and Flyers. I don't mind the Eagles, but the Flyers. I'm a huge Penguin fan. So, but we'll have that discussion some other time. So I'm 58. So I grew up in the 70s. So anyone out there that grew up in that time, it was a special time, a little different back then than what we have now. But I will say that, and I came from a family, I came from a broken family. My parents split when I was really young, and those stressors are on you. I don't care what generation you're from. It's a major stress. It wasn't as common back then as it is now, but still a major stressor in my life. But that being said, growing up, where we grew up, you always had part-time jobs. It was just expected.
Yeah.
And I mean young. I'm not talking when you turn 7. I'm talking like 14. You're delivering newspapers. They don't do that anymore as kids, but they had that. You could get up and take the morning paper, get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I would deliver the morning papers in my neighborhood. And so did that. But then back then you could work, you can get jobs at a gas station too, and pump gas and do odds and ends and stuff. I think maybe New Jersey is the only state now you can still do that. It actually be hard to do that. But I mean, those are the type of things you do. So you're always got that in your mindset, that you had to be making some kind of money, you had to do something and started, getting ready for that. And then I got in, again, jobs available. I started working in restaurants at a young age, around 16, 17. And just then in the late 70s, early 80s, there was, talking about bad times in this country. It was bad. And it was like somewhere like 12, 14% on unemployment. It was just crazy. Inflation was out of control. In this area in Pittsburgh, which was known for steel, the steel industry crashed. U.S. Steel alone, they got rid of 80,000 jobs almost overnight. So if you're growing up as a teenager coming out of high school and you're like, what am I going to do? And there were people who were going to college and coming out with no jobs. There was just nothing. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to college and spend 4 years doing that, because my parents pushed it, you got to go to college. I figured I'm going to do something that I know there's work when I get out. So I got into food service. I was working in restaurants. Hey, let me go manage, get a degree in managing hospitality industries. And that's what I did. Because I always knew there was going to be work. There's always work in that field. Maybe not right this second, but you can always work. There's so many different fields. So I got a degree. I've run fast food restaurants, full service restaurants. But my niche was I got into what we call institutional feeding. And institutionals is usually as hospitals, nursing homes, schools, things like that. And I worked my way. And again, this goes why I am today. I'm like, I'm not working, 70 hours a week doing that forever, because to be honest with you, everyone I knew that did that and were in restaurants all ended up having drug problems and alcohol problems, because you just work so many hours and you get off at work at like 2 a.m. It was crazy. So I didn't want to do that. So I got into school food service actually, which was really nice because you have regular hours, you make a decent living, holidays off, a lot of cool things about it. So I got into that, and that I ended up, being in an industry for 25 years. When I was 48, and I've always wanted to say, I didn't want to do one thing all my life. And how I have gotten to detailing is weird, because I know, a lot of people say, you got to be a car guy, you got to love cars. And I don't say that I don't love cars, but I'm not like Southern California passionate. That's not the way I am. I am more passionate about like detailing. I'm like finesse. Like when I got a car, my first car, a 76 Malibu, it was a piece of junk. But I bought that. That was my money, $1,000, and I was going to make it look as good as I can and make it last as long as I can. And I always had that mindset with me. So every car I've owned, I've always been like that. And I think that's what kind of got me into detailing, because then you start thinking, well, how can I make this better? And you start learning on the curve. But that being said, I was 48 years old, got a little training, a little insight about the business, and thought, man, maybe that'll be my second career. I didn't even know you could do that. I mean, when I was growing up, there was no detail shops. If there was, I had no clue. I don't know who even did that. You did that as a kid. Your dad made you wash the cars. So, but anyway, that's what I did. Trained with Renny in 2010. I knew I had to like have one-on-one training. That's how I learned. I don't do real well in a group setting. I just kind of will slink away in a corner. But Renny puts it right to you. You're right in front of him. You can't, there's nowhere to hide, and he's going to push you on it. It's the best thing I ever did, train with Renny in 2010. And started my own business. That was in March the following year, 2011. I called Renny because I'm quitting my job, going full time. And wow. That's what I did. I mean, I had 23 customers in my database, and I quit cold turkey. Of course, I had to ask my wife first. It wasn't like, it wasn't like a surprise, But yeah, I remember that today. Kind of the same feeling today. The phone isn't ringing. You're sitting there. I just quit my job, and I got no business. The phone's, so you just, really start hustling. And that goes up to where I am now. So that's what I do. I mean, I just run a mobile detailing business. I love doing mobile. I know that's a good starting point for a lot of people. And then that's their starting point to get into having a shop and doing both, or even, getting into, developing products and selling products. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can go in this industry. And I'm sure Renny will get into it from here, but that's where I am now. So, here I am 10 years later. Enjoying mobile detailing, and I do it by myself.
That's awesome. Well, two different perspectives, and not wrong or right, actually right, depending on what people are, different people listening. I want to make some notes that both of you hit on. Is, Barry talks about, I had a teacher, Mrs. Johnson. I was, many people have heard this, is that I was diagnosed with having a learning disability in 1977. And I was in 5th grade, and they actually told my grandmother I was retarded. And it turned out that our little school district didn't, they really didn't know we were a poor school district, and they'd hired this new special ed teacher on. I went into special ed, and it was a really tough day. I remember when my friends found out I was going into special ed, I lost a lot of my childhood friends, but it ended up I had ADD. And to Barry's point, it's funny because I find that small business, especially service businesses, a lot of people, we're pound puppies, we're rescues, many of us. And to parts of society, we were rejects, or we had broken homes in Doug's case, my case. And so I'm not sure what the attraction is in a lot of these service businesses to our types, but our types really excel in it. Doug, you made the point of always finding work. Is that I think anytime you go into a survival situation where the economy, you speak of the 70s, high unemployment, high interest rates, people weren't selling real estate, you weren't buying. The Iran hostage situation was around. There was a lot of things going on that don't mirror today, but you could take the times and say that there's a lot of similarities. Also, the point, aim, and fire is that I like the fact that, I hate when people just start a business just to start a business, or they get into a business and they never literally look back. And I've been guilty of that. Is that you've got to take and with sniper precision at one point, realize what your company's going to do for you and how it's going to fit into your life, because so many people just make your life squeeze into your business. And I love the fact, Doug, you realize that people in the hospitality industry were having drug and alcohol problems, and you pointed yourself away from those. It takes a big person to realize the realities. And so many people just don't want to look at the realities these days. They want to look at the sunny side. So let's go into this. Let's go into chapter 2. We're going to cover pages 26 to 33. We're going to talk about the type of operations, retail versus wholesale, big versus small, specialized versus jack of all trades, and then rethink lifestyle. So let's talk about this for a second. Doug, you started out, you said that you're in, the Northeast, you're in cold country. So how can you stay mobile all these years, 10 years into it?
Well, I think first of all, obviously when you're early on, you're going to have downtime. January and February is going to be pretty dead. It just will, especially when you're starting out. You're just not, the phone's not going to ring. People aren't even thinking about that. But I will tell you that, I've always made sure that I've always promoted interior work, because interior work will carry you through the winter. Now, am I making a lot of money? No, but I will tell you, I still get phone calls pretty regular through those months saying, hey, can you come out? I got a garage. You can work in my garage. That's what I do. So I take advantage of two things. I take advantage of doing that, working in garages. It pays all my fixed costs, gives me a little extra cash, keeps me at least going through 8 weeks until things pick right back up again in March, in this area at least. So that's what I do. And there's other things you can do as well. There's certainly other services you could do that don't necessarily have to worry about doing exterior work or working in really bad weather. And there's a lot of ways you can do it. And I actually one year did work for a dealership, and they just set me up in their detail shop in the winter. And they would just send me, 3 or 4 cars. I'd go up there and finish them up. I'd take my van into their area, work, and then leave. So yeah, I mean, there's always neat, creative ways you can make some cash in this industry, even during the cold times.
So with that, can a person in a like situation weather-wise, can they make a 6-figure income eventually operating mobile in a situation like you?
I think you can. Yeah, I believe you can. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to hustle, and it's going to have to depend on the type of services you want to offer, what you're going to tie your time up doing. But certainly, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt you definitely can do that if you put your mind to it. Yep, definitely be creative with the services.
So Barry, now you a different kind of take on this fixed operation. You've both done through big and small. So what's your take on on fixed versus mobile? Especially again, you're in that area. Kind of what's the story on that?
I gotta praise Doug. I really do. I mean, to be mobile in the Northeast, I think is a challenge. I was always a shop-based guy, and I've done some mobile. Absolutely hated it. I think guys like Doug, I think they're like Superman on steroids. You know what I mean? I don't get how they do it. One of those things I never could grasp, how these guys, they hop in a car, they go to somebody's house, they clean their cars, and then they leave. Great income. I know a lot of talented detailers who make good money being mobile. Even up here in the Northeast, there's a few. Doug really stands out because I know where he lives. He's cold. It's cold there in Pittsburgh. But for me, I was a shop-based guy my whole life. I couldn't imagine, having to walk out the car to get a line for an air compressor. I want that line right beside me. I want a cart literally right beside me. I want the comfort of knowing that I have 5 or 6 cars parked out front waiting to come in versus having to go get them. I love the simplicity of, if you had a shop, that you could do dealer work, you could do retail work, you could do specialized work. It's things that, the limitability of being mobile may change, but again, it's detailing. I think it's a passion of all of us, and if we're all passionate and we want to make that money, we're going to find ways. And I think what the difference is how do you want to make your money? I think, I don't even know Doug. Truthfully, I've never met him in my life until about 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, on here. But it sounds like Doug's living a lifestyle that he absolutely loves, that he's happy with. And in the end, I think that should be the result for all of us. Whether you're fixed, whether you're mobile, whether you're hitting your 60s like you today, Renny. I'm just kidding. But, it's, for me,
okay. Have you broke that 600-pound mark yet?
I'm down, dude. I'm down. I'll tell you what. I'm actually down 30 some pounds since SEMA, man. I'm kind of getting some guns. But it's I love it though. I think for me though, it would be a struggle for me to do mobile, only because I think I was so spoiled of always working in a shop and always having everything within arm's reach and ready for me. As to the guys who are mobile, they have their challenges too, but they also have, I think the cool thing about mobile is I think a lot of detailers we're talkers, we're out there. We like to meet people and do things. And one of the things I admire about, a guy like Doug is he gets out there every day, gets to go to a different house or a different location. It's never the same atmosphere. And for me, I love that, so
well,
it's a little bit.
I like to tell people, as I said, there's one industry that's 100. There's several industries that are 100% mobile, heating and air conditioning, 100%, roofing companies, pretty much 100%. So, Doug, going back to kind of go off what Barry said, what was your decision for of going? Why mobile? And why sticking with mobile?
Well, I think for the first part, and I think you list a lot of these things in your book, Renny. But first of all, it's the most common sense things you think about. I mean, how much is going to cost you to get off the ground, and how much debt you're going to take on. I mean, or how much you could really get put into this. And listen, you're going to open a business. You gotta know you're going to take some risk, and you got to have some of that in you. If you don't have that in you, and you're being super conservative, and you don't want to take any kind of chance, then I would highly recommend don't even think about opening a business, because you're going to freak out. Because you're going to go up and down. You just will, especially when you start out. You're going to mess up stuff. You're going to do bad work. It's just going to happen. And so you got to take a risk. But then how much are you going to take? And the nice thing about mobile is that you don't need your biggest, depending on how much you want to spend, is your vehicle. And you may already have one that you can use, so that you could eliminate that and just retrofit it. So that was really the big reason why I got into that. And then the fact that I love the idea it was home-based. I just run it right from my house here. And funny that something that Barry said, which is so true, is I love like going to different neighborhoods and finding different ways to go places and how do you get there. You become like a master of all the roads and the highways and the backways and stuff. And the other thing that means a lot to me is I didn't want to sit in I consider a shop, to me, would be like an office. I spent 25 years going to an office, having an office, going to the kitchens. To me, was that lifestyle. And I love the idea of just kind of being like, out on the open road, going to different places, setting everything up the way you want it, and not having to have, quote, that office type setting. And I think that's part of what I was running from. When I turned 48, I think I was just wanted out of that and get out of some of those restrictions.
Makes total sense. So let's jump into retail versus wholesale. Now, both of you have got experience on the wholesale side and the retail side. So Barry, why don't you explain, 2-3 minutes, what you've gone down both roads. So positives, negatives of each. And if you were in a shop right now, how would you be thinking?
If I was in a shop now, I'd stay small and probably just be myself and one other person. Retail versus wholesale. The big thing is retail, you get your money right away. Wholesale, you have to probably wait about roughly 30 days. And wholesales can be big. I mean, I remember at one point we were doing about 150 cars a week out of my shop, times that by a month.
Wow.
With employees, salary, payroll,
Wow.
insurance, taxes, you name it. It was one big hefty number to wake up to every day to succeed, you know.
A lot of stresses.
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, it was scary. Something bottom out, you're done. That's it. You're done. When you're talking about moving 80 grand, 90 grand a month, you're done. If right now my shop would have folded, I think within another 3 weeks, going all wholesale. Retail, people are more pickier, but I think you can take your time, deliver a better result. Both of them have their ups and downs. If it were me, I would look at it one of two ways. Do I plan to sell my business? And if I do, I need to stop working in my business, start working on the business and build a business that is sellable. You can't sell a business that's just yours. If it's just you, somebody else can't buy it, come in and replace you. Simple enough. If it was me going for the long run, kind of like what Doug is, I'd stick by myself, stay small, do all retail, hit some dealerships, things like that if I had to on wholesale, but each one has its ups or downs. And, I'm at the point now where I just don't want headaches in my life, and I just don't want to. It's easier not to deal with car dealers. I had some very awesome car dealers, man. I really did. I had guys that paid me on time. I had dealers from New York, New Jersey, awesome people, but I just, the headache after headache after headache, and I'm getting older, I'm 42 now, and I just don't want the headaches. I want to live life.
Now, good for you. Good for you. Hey, so Doug, retail versus wholesale, you've had a foot in both puddles. So talk about that a little.
Yeah. I mean, I really just wanted to, I never had any idea of doing wholesale full time because I think it's hard to do is you're going to be a one-man band. It's very difficult. Generally that is for, you need to have a staff there. But the benefit for sure is they're loading you up with vehicles. You're not having to chase them down or, do sales on the phone and convince people. You're not marketing. They're just bringing you the cars one after another. So definitely can fill a schedule. But like Barry said, I mean, there's a lot more stressors involved with that. I mean, they're on a schedule. You can't have the vehicles for as long as you want. They want them out. They want them done, for certain times. They want them on the lot, and so they can sell them. So that's what I caught out of it. I mean, even the little time that I did, and I was in their detail shop, and they had other detailers around that worked for them. I mean, they were jumping on them all the time. I need this done. And these guys were stressed out. Me, I just did my thing. They weren't going to bother me, but I can see how that, over time really wears you down, day in, day out, week after week. The upside of retail, obviously, like Barry says, I mean, obviously you get a higher ticket, you can spend a little bit more time, you can be a little bit more pickier, but you got to find the business. You have to go out and do whatever you have to do, market, however you're doing it, do sales, convince people, that they should do business with you. And go from there. I mean, so that's the benefit and the downside of it. So you might have to work a little bit harder to get the sales. In the long run, I think you win out because you get to be able to adjust your clientele and have a little bit more say-so over that, and kind of gear what kind of work you like to do, where you want your niche to be, and you're able to adjust that. So that's the benefit of the retail end of it.
It took us a while to figure out wholesale within our shops. We took when we built Attention to Details, my primary company, is we built it with retail only in mind. But what we found out was the dealerships started coming to us, right? They heard about us, and then we started approaching them as we had some success. We actually had a pretty sizable operation in one of the dealerships. We were touching about 25 cars a day, somewhere right in there. And we realized pretty quickly that the margins were so low, it just wasn't worth it. So what we decided is I became what I called a problem solver for the dealerships, is that we no longer, compared to our retail prices, we had a wholesale pricing program, but it was not even close to what the dealerships were used to. So we went from doing, mass volume to just a couple cars a week. And what it was is they'd get a diamond in the rough or something that had odors in it or bad stains or really just trash paint, but it was a nice car. We would fix those problems for the dealership. And we did that all the way through until I sold the company, back in 2010. And so, we made it work out, but there were some rough patches of figuring out the balance, right? Is because, man, I'll tell you, is that, we had a staff of 36 at one time. Doug knows, he's the past president of the Detail Mafia. I came to the group a couple years ago and said, man, I've managed, a company of 36. Managing a group of nearly 200 really isn't my wheelhouse, and I gladly gave over control to guys like Doug that had ran bigger staff before. When you have a problem, when you're that big and you have staff, is you got people calling in sick, you've got people injured, you've got people out, you've got maternity leave, you got people getting divorces, everything they go through, you go through. And so now one question, Barry, you said it, you'd stay small, one or two guys. Doug, you've actually been there. Do you have part-time help during the summertime when you get real busy?
I don't anymore. I have in the past have done that, and I've just decided to not do that and just adjust my schedule accordingly to do the work.
So what's a real reality of profits per hour or gross per hour? What can a one-man shop, can you hit the $100 an hour mark in your operation?
Easily.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't think that's even a problem. Listen, I'm not telling you every single day. There's days that I may not make that, but that's my goal, and that's what I shoot for, and I hit it a lot. And there's a lot of things that go into that. It's not just saying, hey, I'm going to charge, most amount of money and come to me because I'm the best. There's more to it than that, but definitely. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt you could do that and control your costs, what you do.
Barry, so now with that also on a shop, the profitability, times like this, where we're hitting some rough patches and so forth, most of the time though, pretty clear sailing. What are the shops? What do you say that a shop should be hitting depending on their market per hour?
That's tough, Renny. Every shop's a little different. You know what I mean? It really is per hour. It's tough because you have everything, insurance. You have all your. It goes on and on and on. One of the things that I would really tell somebody is make sure your labor percentage never goes above 30%.
Amen.
But as far as like hourly, I think in a shop you can, it's unlimited really if you know how to do it. But I would think a good shop that is strong should be making $200 an hour.
Wow.
I really do.
Art, that's a good number. I would agree. And it's a big number, especially a lot of people might think that, but if you look at the occurring cost and the returning cost and everything else that constantly hits you, and it's with that being said, with the locations that we were located at, did you know we could never really get we were considered, if we got our labor rate at 40 to 48%, we were doing good. Is just because of where our shops were, we could not get labor below that. And so that's even more reason if you're in a high pay area that people can go out and get a regular job and make pretty good money, is that you got to look at your labor rate, man. Barry, that's a great bring up. With that being said, specializes versus of jack of all trades is, our company, we had niches, right? One of our niches was that by volume, we did more cars than we did anything, but yet we were known for doing jet aircraft. And the reason why is because we sold that. That was our niche. And it sold a lot of detailing jobs on cars. The other thing that was our niche was amazing single stage paint correction. Is we got cars looking really good on a single stage and interiors. Those were our three niches. And so what do you guys, what would be your suggestion, mobile or fixed? What would be your suggestion to people? Is it better to have a specialty or kind of be a jack of all trades?
That's interesting. I think that it's going to sound weird. I think you got to be somewhere in the middle of that. I really do. I think you got to keep variety, especially as the demands and what's expected and what people are looking for. So that's why I think you kind of, if you get too tied into a certain niche and you only do specific work, you can get hurt, especially when there's downturns. So if you're going to still with just special high-end work, that you may get, take a dive if you don't have been known to do some other things, and it's tough that when things start going south, you can't automatically just start adding things on and think people are going to respond to that. I think back in 08, in the recession, I mean, my brother-in-law worked, he built yachts. He's making great money down in North Carolina doing that. And that hit. And everyone knows, the yachting industry, the RV industry, motors, all that stuff just gone. These businesses shut down, gone, because they only had that niche, that luxury service. So looking from a detailer standpoint, I think, you don't want to spread yourself out too far and have I'm excellent at everything I do. But I think you need to at least have a couple, at least maybe like Renny said, maybe about 3 or 4 things that you do really, really well that will spread out over your market and you can grab from different areas. And that kind of helps you level out your services and also level out like your schedule so you can keep it nice and full throughout the week.
Barry?
I'm kind of right where Doug's at, but I would lean more towards, I think, in the medium but specialized. And here's kind of why I've always, like, Doug's an individual with him working. He's working by himself. When I had shops, I always had people around me. But one of the things that I learned is, for me, I was kind of like the wet sand guy here. Years ago, if you needed something wet sanded, it came to Barry Theal. If you needed that, what I would call, pardon my French, but sugarcoat and shit. If you needed something that was a dive and you wanted it looking awesome, you come to Barry Theal. And that was cool. I loved it. I always had great projects, and I think my specialty was always paint over the years. But one thing I learned to do was outsource the other trades. And I wanted to kind of focus on that because with a shop, I could bring in subcontractors. So what I would do is I would, if I had a clear brawl job, or PPF, I would call somebody and say, hey, listen, I got this car, it needed paint protection film. Can you come do it? I would bring a guy that specialized in paint protection film to come do it. He'd give me 30% off. He'd give me a wholesale discount rate. I'd mark it up 30%. The customer never really pays any more money, and I still make 30 points for doing nothing. Now if you have a pretty successful shop at what you're doing, you can do that with alloy wheel repair. You can do that with paint protection film. And again, it boils down to, are you trading time for money? And there, you're not trading nothing, So I kind of look at it differently. I'd want my shop to be known as somebody who can get the work done, but individually, I'd rather be specialized in like 1 or 2 areas, kind of like what Doug was saying, and I'll bring the best guy in our area to get the job done for you. But if he's making money off me, I'm going to make a couple bucks off him as well.
Not a bad thing. We always took it. We had in our shops, we got to the point where we had a concierge. And so we had memberships. We were really big into memberships. And we had one person, one lead contact that wasn't me, that handled all of our memberships. And it was so cool because exactly what you're saying, Barry, is that if they needed something, we could handle it. And they knew there was a cost associated with that. You know what I'm saying? And it might not cost them anymore, but it might cost them a little bit, they just wanted the convenience, and they trusted us that we were going to make sure it was done right. So that was huge. So, I think we've all, here's a funny little part I wanted to put in here is that I've seen an awful lot of coating experts, badasses that said they'd never touch interiors that all of a sudden have become interior experts, man. You guys notice that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty funny. And it's funny because a lot of them don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, but boy, they switch gears real quick. So back to a little bit of balance maybe, right? So now, real quickly, both of you, I hope that some of the industry and entrepreneurs, let's just say business owners across the network of everywhere, rethinks lifestyle a little bit. is what do you guys think? Is you know, I myself have been stressed to the point where it's caused me mental damage, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. You know, I overstressed myself. I put myself into spots to where I took on such a load that it kind of flipped the switch, and I can't take those stresses anymore. Barry, thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, as you know, I rethought my lifestyle about 2 years ago. There's no doubt about it. I was, growing up small, I was an athletic kid, pretty well built. I loved all types of sports. I was never great at any one sport, but I was good at a lot of variety of sports. You had to be growing up where I did, you know. But yeah, I mean, for me, the amount of work that I put in over the years building a detail shop with wholesale volume work, it was financially absolutely rewarding, more ways than one. But what they don't tell you is it's addicting. I have addictive behaviors, so I went after business like I would anything else. I work 12, 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I feel like I missed some of my son growing up a little bit, which I'm there for him and I love him to death, but I really do feel like I missed some of that. 10 years of being self-employed. To give you an idea, I went from 195 to 335 pounds. Finally began to work on that. I forgot about, I felt fine. I felt I could walk, I could run, I could do certain things. But it caught up to me really slowly. And I call it that 10 pound a year entrepreneur. That's what I was. Every year, 10 pounds, then 10 pounds. Pant weights 36, 38, 40, and 42. And one day I broke down. I seen a picture of myself last year and I was sick. Just got out of surgery. I looked at myself and I said, this is it. This is going to take some time to change. It didn't happen overnight, but it's going to take time. And I'm slowly now starting to see some of the perks and some of the benefits of trying to have a little bit healthier of a lifestyle, working out a little bit more. I'm not changing a lot, but I've changed a fair enough that I've dropped some weight since SEMA. My goal is to go back to SEMA this year at 240 pounds. That'll give me 95 pounds percent, lost. And I'm going to get there, and I'm going to stand beside you, Renny, and we're going to have a joke about that somehow or other.
You will.
I promise you. But
I'll just give you a hug and tell you how proud I am. That's all I'm going to say.
But I think, when I'm sitting here talking to you guys and I see the lifestyle changes, especially Doug, I've never met him and his story is phenomenal. A guy that's worked in the restaurant industry up until he's 48 and decides to change careers. Who does that in their life? And now, talk to him. You can hear the success, the happiness, the freedom coming out of it, Doug. That's what I want. And I think that's what we all want when we go into business. We want those freedoms, but then we get wrapped up in other things. Like I got wrapped up in money. And it's not supposed to be like that.
No, well, I'll tell you mentioned Doug. Doug's one of my mentors in lifestyle, and he's the reason why he's on today. So Doug, his career was incredible. I know the backstory of it, and the guy was super successful in what he did, and but this guy really frames me in, and has changed my life and changed a lot of people, and he's an incredible leader. To be around his wife and him it's addictive. And so Doug, your decision to take this lifestyle, what was the commanding reason?
Well, and like, I'm sure Barry, I can listen to what Barry has to say and you, Renny. I mean, I think a lot of us, it's a learned behavior. It's not something you just go like, this is how I'm going to do it. You hit a point somewhere in your life and you say, am I going to be rich and miserable? Or going to have some decent money and be happy. And somewhere that light bulb goes off in your head. Different people, some people it never goes off. And they just go from, one bad relationship to another because it all revolves around them. So I think you really got to step back and start thinking, what do I do to, how am I projected to the people around me, your loved ones? How do you come across? Are you part of their lives? Or are you just there to do, certain specifics, bring the money home and stuff like that? So I think you really need to look at yourself and how you're perceived among your friends, among your peers, among your family. And I think you start doing that. And I found myself getting miserable. You know, I was making good money, but I found myself getting miserable. And I don't care who you are, it goes home with you. It just does. And no matter what you do and you say that doesn't happen, I hear so many people say that, and I just laugh at them because you're not shutting it off. There's very few people that have that skill, you know, unless you're trained to do it like astronauts and stuff, to compartmentalize. In the military, you know, they teach you to compartmentalize and block out different things and just deal with that one issue. You don't just pick up that, you don't pick that up on your own. So that's what it was. I mean, it was a feeling of misery at times, dread, having to go to work. And I will say also, when I got into the detailing business, I gung-hoed, man. I was running around, you know, I want to be everybody's detailer. And it, you know, after about 3-4 years in, it was wearing on me, you know, and my wife, she caught it too. She's like, you know, you're going to do this and be miserable, you know? So she was part of it. It says, like, you know, you need to step back a little. Like, you don't need to work 7 days of work. First, it started, you don't need to work Sundays. No. Okay. So I talked that in. Okay, don't work Sundays. And then so she let me do that for a while. So eventually her next step was, you don't need to work weekends. My wife works full time. She says, well, on weekends should be for us. And you don't need to work Saturdays or either. So, you know, you get into that mode. So it's a step-by-step process you get into. I mean, I just, you know, got to that point. I mean, that's one of the benefits of being mobile. And that's one reason why I stay that, because you really can have more control over your time. You can set your schedule, but at the same time, like Barry said earlier, you do a job, you do a car, you're gone. Bye. You off you go. You know, if you got a shop and you got hours or any kind of business, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be detailing, but if you're gonna be open, you know, 8 to 4 or 8 to 5 or whatever, people expect that. They expect that door, you know, not to be locked at 4 o'clock or 3:30. So that's where I am. I mean, I just find it so important to be able to just spend some time at the end of the day, instead of doing the whole 10-hour thing, coming home and just doing the basics in your life and then starting all over the next day. And when you're younger, you probably get away with that. But as your responsibilities gain in life, it becomes more of a burden. And if you don't learn to control those things, you end up having unhappy relationships. I think some of it has to do with issues with children having issues in their lives. And I know a lot of people, like, you know, make snide remarks about some of the newer generations. I got to tell you the truth. I think some of them got it right early in life. Yeah, I really believe that. I mean, these guys are like, listen, I don't like to work weekends and I need a vacation. And, you know, and a lot of people think that's so arrogant, but I'm thinking, like, wow, that's good thoughts to have at that age. You know, obviously you can go overboard with that, but still it's in their head that they want to balance their life, and they're getting this idea earlier. And I think a lot of us got it 20 years later, you know.
Oh, well, we came up with a whole different generation, you know, and they taught us differently. And you were considered lazy. And here's the other thing, man, is a lot of people don't realize, even the military, and Barry will know this, is, yeah, they train us to take and deal with stresses. Really, all they do is stress you out to where you think it doesn't bother you. But in reality, the only ones that are taught how to deal with those stresses are the special forces guys. And even a lot of them, it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. You screw yourself up, man. And you know what? The human body was, I don't give a crap what you think. It's not meant to be stressed that long, those many days, without enjoyment. Is that we need to take and have downtime, mental downtime, physical downtime, and you need to have enjoyment in your life. And I've seen it too many times. We go up and rescue people off of situations where, you know what, they realize it and they're dead. And or they're badly injured, and their day is done. And so, gentlemen, great input. So let's go ahead and jump over to here real quick. This is a simple equation for the type of operation. Is I'd love to know, and this has changed a little bit. So the money side of things is living on the edge. If you're going to go in and even start the business, even start it. And listen, man, I started mine due to survival. So I didn't have any money in the bank. I didn't have any money. And so to go into a shop wouldn't make sense, because then I'm taking a bad situation, putting into a worse situation. But if you're going to go into a fixed location, even if you've got a job and you're going to give your job up to go in and start this business, the living on the edge is 6 months of total expenses in the bank. That's for your business and for you. Now, in reality, I want to tell you, we've seen it this in the last 3 weeks. The reality is that you need to have 12 to 24 months of total expenses put away. We've seen in the first 6 days, within a week of this coronavirus hitting, we had major what we were supposed to be successful businesses already saying they were gone. You know why? Because they were on the edge. They were less than on the edge. They were in the hole, and they weren't being honest with themselves. And so here's my simple equation. If you're a mobile guy and you want to go into a shop, at minimal, I'm saying 12 to 24 months of total expenses put away. And the reason why is that keeps you, you can be Doug right now. You can be completely relaxed and turn it off for a little while and enjoy. Is that I won't say I'm completely turned off, but I'm probably 80. I'm doing these every day. I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and at 3 o'clock, my day's done. You know what I'm saying? My day's done. Weekends, no social media. You know, I'm taking control of my life. When you put yourself in a financial situation that allows you to do that, guess what? You're not going to get stressed out. You're going to be more attractive to people. You're going to draw in more people to do business with you. You're going to make more money, and you're going to do so working less hours. What do you want? So Barry, we'll start with you. What's your input on that?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, if you would have known the shoestring budget that I started my career with, I was one of those guys who just came out and said, "Let's do it." You know, it's.
Well, I'm going to circle something real quick and put it up to the screen, okay? Because that's what I started with right there, $20. So I shoestring.
You beat me. Yeah, I started with $135.
Wow.
I'll never forget. I think it was like 135 or 136. And I bought some product, did a car, and I got to the end of the car and I didn't even have money to buy the wax for the car when I was working out of my house. So that was one of the things that scared me was, you know, I lived on that edge and I loved every part of it because I think if I didn't have that edge, I wouldn't have hustled as hard. You know, and I hate to say that, but at the same time, going through that, you don't have to do that.
No.
You don't have to do that. And
no.
Like you said, you can be the mobile guy and be happy like Doug. Like Doug found a spot. Doug found a spot and a balance that I never once had as a detailer. And I admire the hell out of that. I really do, because to hear Doug talk and he's talking about, you know, I'm mobile and I shut it off. You know, I have my schedule. My doors aren't open from 8 to 4, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting there thinking, man, if he would have known how much my doors were open and how much I struggled, you know, you gotta admire that. At the same time, looking back on it now, I was a nutcase. I was crazy to think that I could have started a business with $135 or whatever. And to be in the position I am today, trust me when I say I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful. But at the same time, like you said, it takes one shot, one thing, and it took this coronavirus. I've talked to detailers who I thought were extremely successful online, who are contemplating closing their doors.
Right.
And what scares me, Renny, is we're, like you said, a week. I think we're about 2 weeks in over here on the East Coast. We're 2 weeks in, and guys are closing their doors. That scares me as an industry, because how many people are like that right now? How many people are debating, do I shut down? Do I close doors? Do I get a part-time job? Do I get a full-time job? Do I turn this to part-time? Guys are really confused, and that scares me. I could have been that guy, you know, 8 years ago. I could have been that guy. I just didn't have this scenario hit me. Truthfully, I'd like to be at 6 months to 12 months of money in the bank for everything. I really would. I have that cushion now, and I'll tell you, I'm comfortable with it. I enjoy that, you know?
You're right. And it's so, Doug, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at those numbers, 12 to 24 months. Geez, yeah, I think you're right on. And I'm sure people looking at that going, wow, I could never do that.
Right.
But then you got to kind of be, you know, again, creative. How are you going to get that, you know, that cover those expenses? I mean, Renny, you know, you're bringing new people into the group all the time, and they're really interesting to talk to, because you get a whole variety of people, and you get some of these younger guys, but then they're married, and their wife has income. And so that gives them a little bit more flexibility of what they can and can't do, how much money to put away. So there's different ways you can look at it, or maybe, God forbid, maybe you need to do business, but have a partner or something. So there's a lot of different ways to be creative. But yeah, if you get in, and it's so easy to get in over your head with leases and all these different things and costs to grow your business. And if you don't have that to fall back on, everything you did before is gone, over. You got to completely start over. So you really got to look at those numbers and really follow that. I mean, that's not like just a suggestion. That's reality, like says right there in your face. So, that's where you're at. I mean, anything I would add is, I've talked to people about this before, and it's just my mindset. And again, being grown up, like my wife and I, we've always had this thought, and we've always looked at it as this, like, what happens if one of us can't work? What happens if one of us, God forbid, passes away? Can the other one make it? Can the other one make it? And we've said that. I mean, I'm going to be married 30 years next month, and we've always said that from the beginning. Like, you have to be partners, but you have to be self-sustaining within that partnership. You got to be able to say, like, if the worst thing happens, will I be able to survive that? And that's how you got to look at things. Not just now, but all the time, guys. I mean, bad things happen all the time. And, I had a meeting with my financial advisor just a month ago. Or 2 months ago, he was bragging how great things were. I haven't heard from him recently, but he's a great guy.
He asked me paper or plastic.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal is that there's what started my company right there. That also, it's the original one. And so that was part of the original $20. Here's the deal. Let me explain this. You know what? You might be expanding. So, you go in, and even if you're mobile, you've got to have a cushion there. And we're seeing it. Barry just mentioned it. People are disappearing. But here's the deal. What you got to do is that, listen, okay, how did I go from this? Did it keep me? I had a part-time gig, man. I had a family I had to feed. And I set everything up onto financial goals. So I said, listen, man, I'm not giving up my part-time gig until I've got 6 months of reserves sitting aside. So it's still on the edge. But then I got rid of the part-time gig. Then I got up to the point where I said, okay, I need to build up to where I've got 12 months of reserve. And it took me a couple years to get there. But here's the other thing I did is I lived below my means. I kept my expenses very, very modest, very modest. I also tracked exactly what services were making me money and weren't making me money, meaning that I was an entrepreneur. I was a true business person. I also know I watched my finance. I watched my hourly rate. I watched my labor rate when I hired people on. I only brought in part-time help during the busy times and went back to being solo. So there's a matrix that will take and allow you to get to this point. And I'm not saying you're going to start at 12 to 24 months worth of savings, but if you're going into a shop and you're going into a 3, 4, 5 year lease, you better have 12 months worth of reserve. And this virus could happen again. Oh, wait, we've lived through that. The only reason I've lived through things was my tenacity and having money put away and living below my means. Those were all things that happened. And so, but here's the reality is right now is the reason why 24 is underlined. Why? Well, because you know what reality is we could hit things like this again. And what do you want to be, stressed or comfortable? And money in the bank is king. Simple as that. So, all right. So let's go to the next one real quick. Let's talk finances. Employees versus contractors. Is that we've studied this a lot. I actually, in my early days, I went to the state we were operating in and laid this out to them. What do I need to do if I've got an employee or a contractor? Their response was simple. If the event that if they're a contractor, they're using their own tools, they're using their own products, they're making their own schedule, and you've got an agreed upon price point, meaning that per hour or per job, that's agreed on in paper. If all those things happen, then they can be a contractor. But if you're controlling their hours, if they're using your tools and they're using your products, guess what? They are now an employee. So workers' comp, what's happening today? If you don't carry workers' comp on, I see a lot of shops that remain open. They're essential. Not going to shame them. That's a decision that a lot of people have to make. But here's what's going to come back on people. And we're not talking about this as an industry. Any industry is not talking about it. Two things are going to happen. That workers' comp's going to go back, and they're going to be, believe me, if there's claims and somebody gets sick, that's going to be a nightmare. Number two is insurance companies are going to come back, and if they saw that you stayed open when you were a non-essential company, you're going to see insurance companies drop people left and right. There's a reality, because I just talked to our insurance dude, and they're already doing it. They're already on it, and they're in a lot more industries, detailings like this big in their industry. They're already looking at people, and guess what? They're separating themselves from those people. They don't want any part of it because of liability. Taxes. This is a great point, because a lot of people are putting in for benefits. Well, guess what? If you didn't even, and here's a little secret, there's a lot of small businesses out there that take taxes out of people, but don't pay them. Well, guess what? You're going to get caught on it now, because they're going to apply for some of these benefits. They're going to go back on you, and they're going to hang you out by your baby maker. You got to ask yourself, am I supporting myself? Is my business a business, or is it a hobby? And then what's your end game? As Barry mentioned it earlier, do you want to sell your business? So Barry, let's go down that list with you in 3 or 4 minutes. Let's talk about employee versus contractor.
For me, I was always employees. I know some guys that are contractors. I could just, if they had a legitimate business, their own EIN number, they came in, they provided a service for me like paint protection, clear brawl, alloy wheel repair, things like that. That's a contractor.
There you go.
An employee was somebody who showed up, did the work for you in your establishment day in and day out, and did it. I have friends who have employees who are contractors. Does that make sense? They're paying them cash basically, and they're not taking the benefits. Big no. Don't do it. You don't want to get wrapped up in that at all. Workman's comp, it's going to hit you. Somebody's going to eventually get hurt. Somebody's going to fall. Like you said, now I didn't even think about it with this illness. Somebody gets sick, they're off 2 weeks, they're going for workman's comp. And then if you're an essential business, you're done. Yeah, I mean, imagine going to that next insurance company and saying, hey, I was a non-essential business open during essential times. One of my employees got sick with the coronavirus, and they filed workman's comp, and I'm here to get it. They're going to laugh at you and say, hey, dude, you're done. It don't matter what you paid us, you're done. I used to have a lot of insurances with my company. We, and I was always big on insurance. I had a biohazard contract through Manheim Auto Auctions. So one of the things I used to do was post my insurance right on my page. And the thing it said was, is the other guy insured? Here's mine. And I listed my insurances right there on my website. For anybody to read, I didn't care. It was, the point say was I was insured. You can contact my insurance company. There was all the numbers. It was there. Taxes. Geez, I don't even want to get into this one, but we all make mistakes. There for a couple of years, I had some tax issues, and I'm still paying them back today. And the one thing I could tell anybody is, you're a detailer, not a CPA. Right. Get one. Amen. Get one. I learned that the hard way. I'll let it at that. Am I supporting myself at a real level? I was fortunate. I always did. But not to where I wanted to be, and I still don't think I'm at to where I want it to be. The end game, I don't think detailers have an end game. Most of them. Here's why I say this. I think most detailers, and you hit this pretty well. I got a lot of guys with like ADHD, issues, things like that. I was one of them. But I don't think we have an end game. I think we have a beginning. I think we start with, I want to be self-employed. I'm a good detailer. I can do this full time, and I'm going to pray to miracle that my business succeeds. I know a lot of guys who have started that way, but there is no end game, and most of them don't have goals. There's no business plan. There's no structure to what they're doing. It's, to me, a business plan is 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, then 5 years, 72 months. And a lot of these guys, they're not breaking that down. So I truthfully, I don't think they have an end game. For me, my end game, I'll be the first to admit it, was always to sell. It was, I knew eventually that I can't detail. How many detailers do you know are over the age of 55? Doug's few and far between. I mean, I hate to say that, but how many detailers do you know that have been detailing for 40 years or 30 years, that are still detailing in their 60s up until 65? Very few, very few. And I always knew that that wasn't my end plan. My end plan was to eventually build a business big enough to sell. I built a business that was big that I actually ended up walking away from because I just wanted no more parts of the whole wholesale industry. And I, obviously started SB3, and, now there are end games. It's not to sell though this time. It's not to sell. It's something big, and it's up to our team. We got a great team here. My partner, Scott, we got another guy, Derek, who's motivated, passionate, works behind the scenes. He's been learning the ropes of the industry, and we've got some kick-ass goals that I think are going to be achievable. That'll be good, and we're happy.
Cool.
That's my end game, is to be happy.
Doug.
Two quick stories, and hopefully it'll relate to some of these topics you have here. About 3-4 years ago, I was audited by the state of Pennsylvania, and I was blown away. Why would they pull me out? One little band. And I called them, and they tell you, hey, we're coming this day. And I said, well, is there a reason why I'm being pulled out? And they said, and they looked it up, and they go, oh, well, actually, there's another business with the same name as you, but it's a construction business. So we accidentally, pulled the wrong name, but you still got to come out. Too bad.
Wow.
They can't just say, no, we're not going to do it. So they came out and audited, they were looking for unemployment, making sure you're paying all your taxes. And, and they wanted to see, bank statements, and where they wanted to see any large, payments out. Contractors, that's what they were looking for. Are you playing that game with them? And so, I mean, everything was clean on my end, but it goes to show you, if you're skirting the rules, how crazy something can turn around on you. And the other quick story is, in my other career, I have sat through several labor relations hearings for firing people, things like that. Anyway, and because you can say you have all the rules and everything, but when somebody goes down and says I was unfairly fired, they start asking for paperwork, and you're going to go to a hearing, and they're going to, no matter how right you are, they're going to start asking for files. They're going to start asking for paperwork, and it's amazing what they can get from you. So be aware of that. So if you think that you're a small little business and I'm just going to skirt that and this and not play by the rules, you can come out and get bit really, really easy. The end game for me, real quick, is everyone. I know so many people, I'm getting, I'm 58. So there's people that I know that are in my age group that are retiring. And then they're all looking for part-time work. They retire. Anyway, I got to find something to do. So this is my part-time work. I figure, I can always get a detail out of me here and there. But man, Barry is so right about that. How long can you do? Because it's labor-intensive work. You really got to take and think about that. Are you going to be, detailing cars into your 60s until nowadays you have to be, 66, 67 to retire. To get full benefits. So, start thinking about things like that. But so to me, I'm just looking at this as I'm just going to slowly just fade away. And probably that's what I'll end up doing one day, and they'll find me dead, after detailing a car. So
let me tell you, Barry, you've never met this guy. He's one of the most fit guys you can imagine. This guy's like a Bob Phillips and Dave Phillips of PNS.
Not in that good a shape.
Oh, you're pretty damn good shape, man. Yeah, he can walk circles around people 20 years older than him. So, great input, guys. So here we go. So let's go into this real quick. Is that ask yourself this: am I treating this like I should? Really, are you treating your business like you should? Are you treating yourself like you should? Do I know what I need to know? And I'll tell you, this blows my brain, is that, I'm a pretty educated guy, slowly over time, got my bachelor's, got my master's, military trained, search and rescue trained. I got a lot of certifications under my belt within boat and business. What's my little niche? Do I have something? I like, Barry's turned his into, his company. I've turned mine in. You see, PNS and my various sponsors in the background. Doug's turned his into where he had a great career, and this is his part-time gig that's bringing him in pretty significant money. Hot dogs or steaks, you know, I can do well selling hot dogs, and I can also do well selling steaks, but my services are going to match up to my market and what my market demands are. And so I'm going to watch my hourly income. Am I really connected locally? Is that, you know, Barry's a really connected guy. He uses his connections. I've seen it firsthand when we were back in Philly. It's pretty amazing. And then really, this is something that the last two are big for me. Am I really enjoying life? And I think a lot more people, if they're honest with themselves, there's parts of it that they'd like to redo. And this is a great time to redo it. And then the lie, one of the biggest lies I see is grinding at 18 hours a day. You know, I love Gary Vee. I listen to his stuff, but you know, he makes a lot of money by getting people to overwork like he does. And, you know, in the service business, I think when you work that hard, it equals burnout. And to both these gentlemen's point, you don't see a lot of people that are up in age that are grinding this. And the reason why is a lot of them didn't take the time to either A, build it into a micro empire and work on it, or B, build it like Doug has into a lifestyle business. I think that they tried to do something that they weren't and be something they aren't, and that it caught them in the ass and they're gone. So any input on these? We'll go ahead and start with Doug on this one. Doug, anything standing out with you?
Yeah, I mean, when you say connected locally, I think that is so important. You know, I always say I'd rather be known in my community than be known on Facebook and Instagram. You know, I'd rather be more famous here. So that's my intake on everything, because they're the people that are going to, you know, pay your bills. They're going to be people that you can connect with and maybe help you out in some other way. And so, you know, that's the biggest thing. I'm obviously enjoying life and all that, but that's the one I pull the most out of right there.
I love it. Barry, something jumping out at you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at hot dogs and cheesesteaks. Hot dogs and steaks thinking, have you ever had a cheesesteak? You know what I mean? That's like right in the middle, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that. I like that. That's cool.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, you know, I want a cheesesteak whiz, you know, that's it. But no, truthfully, you know, I think Doug hit something that's pretty hard. Am I connected locally? That's huge, man. People, detailers, and I say this all the time. And I was actually talking about 2 years ago out in Pittsburgh, and I started the whole conversation with, really, who gives a shit? And they looked at me, and I said to them, I said, I see everybody in all these groups posting pictures of swirls on cars, 50-50 shots. You know, the list goes on and on and on. And I said, who really gives a shit? Honestly, tell me. Who gives a shit? You know, like, we as detailers, if you can remove swirls, good job. That's your job. And I don't mean that arrogant or cocky, but that's what you're supposed to do. Like, good job. We aren't the ones who should give a shit. You're catering to the wrong person. Be out there in your local market, pushing that. You know, it's nothing personal. Like, I love to see somebody who does a great job on a car. I love to see people who can, you know, wet sand and remove it and do all of it, and who shows us all. I fall in love with that stuff. We all do. Water beating is like the next thing that, like, for some reason gives me peace of mind. But really, at the end, as detailers, we really don't give a shit. Market to your local people. That's where your money's made. But at the same time, another thing that really hit me was, you typed up here, the lie that my business is my whole life. My whole business was my life when I had a detail shop. And I thought, man, you know, there are times this is awesome, but at the same time, it's like, that is a lie, because that's not my whole life. You know, I love golf. I enjoy golf as a person. I suck at it now. In high school, I was good. But now I suck. And it's because, you know why? I was so wrapped up in business that I lived that lie. It's not my whole life anymore, but it was. And I lost a lot of cool things that I'm just now getting back And it's, it's because we have great teams here. Scott and I are great partners. Derek's doing well. And it's all of us. Scott's living a good life now. Derek is starting to live a good life. I'm starting to live a good life. And slowly we're all coming together, building each other up. And I see you, Renny. I mean, no offense. I was there. I seen it, man. You got a great shop. You got great people behind you. You couldn't have did that by yourself, dude. No offense. I know you. You did that with the help of Diane, with Bob Phillips, and everybody around you. That you believed in them, they believed in you, and the support.
My kid played a fucking big.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, man.
Yeah, and
they had to deal with me coming home stressed out and being an asshole.
Yeah, and that's what it's about to me, man. Is like I lived that lie. I think you lived it for a while. I'm sure Doug lived it at some point too. But when you begin to humble yourself down a little bit, and here, ask yourself, I had a humbling experience years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, through the Masonic community. I can't really talk about it, but, I became a Knights Templar. There was a part in there that was pretty humbling, pretty amazing to sit back and look upon yourself. And I had that. And that's kind of where I think some of it flipped. And that's where in my mind, it hit me, but it didn't smack me across my face, but it stuck there for a while. And then when I had my surgery 2 years ago, that was my, oh shit, I got smacked in the face moment. And since then I've been changing. Now the business isn't my whole life. I'm not living that lie no more that you talk about. So I think out of all these, even though the hot dog and steak thing, I'm going to take a cheesesteak on that one. But I really think, yeah, I'm connected locally. I use my contacts. Obviously, you've seen that. You've seen some pretty cool shit. And that was in Philadelphia, not just here locally, where I'm from. But at the end of the day, I really like ask yourself. I think you got to ask yourself to seek humility. You seek humility,
Amen.
You're gonna change, truthfully.
Amen. Hey, and it's the biggest thing is that when you're truly happy, and I look at Doug, and I'm you just said it. I know Doug's had his struggles in his business. I don't think they've been too heavy though, and I think Doug's addressed them very quickly, and he's realized from day one what he wanted to be and what he didn't want to be. And that's why I look up to him. That's why he's on right now. Is that, Barry, I was your age when I started coming off my slope, of growing up very modest. I wanted something big, and I realized it just consumed my life, and it ruined some things for me. I ruined some things for me, and others by that time. But ask yourself and stop reading into. And you know what? We're seeing it right now. There was so much envy because other entrepreneurs would see what other entrepreneurs are doing and saying, I want that. I hope you guys see it. Most of it was bullshit and fake, because a lot of those people that were spinning that bullshit story and that lie are deep shit right now. I hate to say it. And, the people that were silent, the guys like Doug is, you know what? He's not even concerned right now. He's okay. He's going to make it through this. So ask yourself, simple as that. So now going into this is that I love this. How long did it really take to build Rome again? What did it take? Is the Roman Empire, if you read about history, and I love history, especially Italian history, is, it took a long time for that empire to build up. And it took a long time for that empire to collapse. Is that right now there's a lot of instant gratification out in life. I like the younger generation. They've been an influence on me. Is that we've got an ad that's coming out. We're not going to do it now, but it says an instant success story, 35 years in the making. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people, and we're seeing the blowout from that. They wanted to take and have our level of success, what Barry's done, myself, what Doug, what other people have done, but they wanted it in a couple of years. And we can see that when the foundation isn't built and you don't have the correct pillars underneath you, and that foundation, a biblical statement is when that foundation is built on sand and not on rock, you can see what happens. It crumbles pretty quick. So what would you say to the people that are newer to the industry, newer to entrepreneurship, and I know I say be patient. Barry, what do you say?
I always like that statement. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I'm looking at a picture, um, wow. I kind of, I like your be patient, but I also like go hard at it. But for me, if I was coming into the detailing industry, I think that I would have to say have an open mind with everything that you do. Um, that's huge to me. Like for me, and even to this time, like I was always experienced. Before I had my business, I was a pretty experienced detailer under my belt. But there were times where I thought I knew it, and I was wrong. And to me, it's have an open mind because tomorrow's another day.
There you go. Doug.
Yeah, well, I'm a process guy, so and so that's how my mind works. And I would only say anyone that's in those positions right now, know exactly where you are right this second. Don't lie to yourself. Know exactly where you are. Know where you want to be, maybe in a year, and then you're going to have to start making specific steps, not in your head, but get it down in specific steps. And if you don't know what step is next, then you need to reach out and find someone, either a mentor, somebody, or hire somebody, or get the proper knowledge to take the exact steps you need to do. That's how it's done. You can't do it all in your head and have some, great dream in your head. You gotta sit down at some point and get the steps down to where you want to go. That's for anything that you're working on, even if you're an established business. And like I said, right now, people are looking at their businesses. Where are you right now? What do you want to accomplish? And start taking specific steps to do that instead of wallowing and wondering, I wish I could get there. Do it. So that's my input.
Hey man, forward movement. That's what I love about the Marines is that, they preach it. Everybody's a rifleman, and man, they move, they move forward, and that's what you've got to do, in business. And again, don't let the time frame. Here's the deal is the only thing time does is that, it took Jim Gogan and I talk all the time, and we talk about how, we're 30 years into this. Well, it shouldn't take, if you're a hustler, Barry, that Barry's talking about, really 7 to 10 years in, you should be at the point that we're at. I mean, it shouldn't take you as long as it did us. You got a lot more tools at your fingertips, and you got a lot more people that will mentor and coach you. And it's just a different world. You've got online marketing. You've got all kinds of groups and meeting groups that meet locally to build up relationships. It is really 7 to 10 years in. You should, what took me 30 years to build, you should be close to that. Now, are you going to have the financial strengths? No, that's going to take a little more time. Are you going to have the credibility? Maybe not to that level, but you should be. Listen, just because you're 2-3 years in doesn't mean that you shouldn't be making a nice living. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you got to remember is to get somewhere like, Carroll Shelby. How long did it take Carroll Shelby to really, truly be successful? It took him a decade or so. He really struggled. You're going to have struggles. Just endure it. Just suck it up. It's okay. Enjoy the ride until then, It's going to take some time. So simple as that. So now, is your market any good for detailing? You know what? I mean, I won't say every market's good for detailing, but I will tell you this is, Doug, you're in a market that is probably, I'd say, pretty typical U.S. market. I've been in small markets and big markets. I think it's coming up with a menu that will sell in your market. And so, Doug, what's your take on that?
Yeah, here's what I know. In my county, there's 1.2 million people that live here. In the Tri-County area, there's 2.6 million. So that's the size of my market, and you're right that you got to find what's going to work. You can't shove it down a market's throat that this is the way it's going to be. I've known guys, they work in Arkansas, and they drive on dirt roads and detail cars, So the work's out there, but you know what they want? They want their pickup trucks cleaned, and their farmers and their ranchers and stuff, In other markets, you're dealing with the middle class, the upper middle class, the white collar crowd. So you gotta find, you can't push it down somebody's throat if your market doesn't accept it. Fact. I mean, I don't think too many people in the farming districts are putting coatings on their work trucks, So they just don't care,
No.
But anyway,
you know what? They'll put something spray on it.
Damn right. Yep.
And Barry's like me. I like stuff that sprays. You can see that product right there. You know,
I got some of that.
Yeah, spray.
I do. It's watch this. Hold on. I want you to believe me. Look, I like that product. Hold on. Look.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to get up and prove it. But you know, to Doug's point is that it's when Barry, you can see we support each other's companies. He's had events here. We're very supportive. We're competitive. Oh, look at that, man. It's even the presidential level. And so, you know, there's different markets. So Barry, your input on that, your market.
You know, I had a guy early on. He was a detailer, you know, really talented. Never see him online. His name's Todd Zimmerman. Taught me a lot about the industry. To this day, I think I still owe my detailing career to him. You know, truthfully, but he always said, know your backyard. So, and I learned that very, very early on. Yeah, I was the type of guy, you know, I had a lot of awesome cars that I detailed for retail establishment. But I was fortunate enough to learn my backyard, know my backyard right away. And my market at the time, I was from a town, Manheim, Pennsylvania, town of 10,000 people that lived there, grew up. At the time, that was a lot of people. You know, it might even be down a little bit, but we had anywhere from 9 to 15,000 cars a week driving to our town to get cleaned, detailed, auctioned off, and sold. Where's your market? You know, the market, at that time, I didn't care about retail. I had 9 to 15,000 cars every week. How do I get a piece of that pie? That's the pie I wanted. And I took it. I took full advantage of it. So knowing your market is huge. I mean, you know, I know some guys, you know, I've been fortunate in SB3 to meet a lot of different people like you have, Renny, and probably Doug, but we have some guys that they say, hey, Barry, I don't want to sell a 5-year coating. My market won't uphold to it. Then we have guys who say, Barry, my market only wants a 5-year coating. Or Barry, you know, I only want a 1-year coating. And then we had guys who, you know, I said, listen, they didn't even know how to do a coating, for example, because they just wouldn't sell in the backwoods redneck area of where they live. I said, introduce it to the market. Somebody has to. Why not you? He goes, yeah, but there's a guy that, you know, selling down the street for $2,000 and, you know, he's not doing so well. Okay, we'll sell a 1-year coating. What happened? The guy comes in with a 1-year coating, starts selling them. The guy who's trying to charge $2,500 in his market can't sell coating is following this guy, you know, condemning him for selling a $300 to $400 coating. And I seen it firsthand. Meanwhile, this guy's knocking out 4 coatings a day, that $300 to $400, making $1,500 a day. And the other dude's like, what's he doing? This guy, yeah, this guy now is, you know, I wish I could say his name, but out of respect, I won't. He knows who he is, but, you know, he's in a state where now I've watched him grow. He went from buying a 1-year coating. Now he's doing 5-year coatings, 2-year coatings, and he learned his market. You know, he's not making $2,500 a car like maybe they are in San Diego or LA, but where he's at, he understands his market value. And that's huge. And it's so awesome to watch people grow like that, Renny. Fires me up, man.
Me too, man. So, you know, happiness is I love these quotes. These are little quotes. Happiness is a positive cash flow. And then I love this one is stupid people surround themselves with smart people. Smart people surround themselves with people who will disagree with them. And so, you know, as you're younger, is surround yourself with really smart people. As you become more educated, make sure that you don't surround yourself around a lot of yes people. Make sure, you know, I'll tell you, I got a funny story. Is 2 years ago at SEMA, I got straightened out by Jim Gogan, and Jim Gogan backed me into a corner, and within about 30 seconds, boy, I was owning shit, you know? And so to have Jim Gogan's fangs came out pretty quickly with me, and I had no problem owning it. And because I know Jim's fangs only come out when I'm being you know, when I'm wrong, you know what I'm saying? When I'm really wrong. So make sure you have those kind of people around you, you know, it's because it's, you don't want to hear the good news. So the rest of the world is, guys, how do they get a hold of you guys? So Barry, what's any plugs for you?
Facebook. I mean, if you can't find me, something's wrong, you know. But truthfully, Facebook, you could sb3coating.com. The email directly comes to me. or, truthfully, I just prefer Barry at sb3coating.com.
There you go.
That would be, my plug. But yeah, that's it.
Now, you're a Mason too, so you guys are doing a lot. What's the Masons up to with all this?
Freemason, I could go on forever, but for me, it's about leadership. I think you kicked on it earlier. Hang around people that will disagree with you. For me, I don't look at my mentors. I have a few detailing mentors. I think, Renny, you'd be one of them, even though we've never really had that. But I know you're around if I really need you, that I could ask you for advice. I have a few other guys like that. But for me, a lot of my mentors come out of the Masonic fraternity. All of them actually do. And they're all successful guys. And they're successful because of the leaderships that the Masonic fraternity teaches us, basically. That's where they all come out of there. And obviously you've seen some of what can happen if you listen to these guys and you do what you do. And yeah. That's
cool. Doug, how about you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can reach me on Facebook, just direct message me, or you can go to my website, iforoautodetail.com. You can contact me through that as well. I'm available. I'm out there. So
right on. Well, let's go through real quick. Hey, Chris, let's open it up. We have any questions?
Not questions. I've had lots of comments, both on Facebook and on here. Everything positive. Guys like what you're saying. If there's any questions, go ahead and type them in, everybody. I'll sort through them.
Yeah, it's we got Tim Carty says that, if you're going to hire on contractors to do work, business should check their state laws. Really important. Steve Hampton, welcome, buddy. This is a guy, 65 years old. He's killing it. He says 65 is the new 40. Absolutely. Abe Sanchez, Dave Ramsey, absolutely. Love the guy. Total Makeover. Great book for your financial life. I love that. Tim's mobile, and thought about a shop. Then this happened. And, don't go away from once you have a shop, woo, boy, is it nice. It's just having a shop. It's just got to make financial sense for you to do it. Yeah. And Chris, you're down. Why don't you share that story with Barry? What are you doing weight wise?
Oh, me? It's probably a little drastic in some people's eyes, but in the last 3 weeks, I've lost 15 pounds.
Good for you.
Good job.
I'm on roughly right now, hanging in around 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day.
Ugh.
But,
that's a sandwich.
Yeah, there you go. Good for you, man. I'm proud of both of you.
Yeah, and so, I'm hoping by SEMA that, I'm down to another 50 pounds. I'd love to be around 200 pounds. So that's where I'm at. But I got to work in exercise still. That one is still a challenge for me.
It is. It's tough. Joshua adds in that he's at the other end of the spectrum. He's been in a career for non-detailing for 20 years. He's rethinking everything. Especially it was really hard to keep his detailing career going while he was at a really good career. But now with all this going on, he's really feeling that he might bail ship and jump back into what he really loves to do. There's a lot of value. And I think that Doug would tell you that right there. Doug is, what's been your experience going back it's pretty much passion based, isn't it?
Yeah, that has to be that's what's going to take you through the tough times. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Daniel, I feel the same about not thinking about the shop after 40 years. Good morning, everybody. A lot of good mornings. So, hey, gentlemen, I just went a little long, but wow, what a conversation. And, go check these guys out on social media. And this wraps up right now. I'll go back into we're going to start out on Wednesday. We'll have another guest. We're going to finish up a good portion of Chapter 2. I believe, let me look at my book real quick. I think we're going to wrap up Chapter 2 on Wednesday. Yeah, we will. And so we'll go over some topics. We'll release that. But, hey, thanks, Barry. Thanks for coming in. Doug, thanks for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. Really insightful. And, again, this is Barry and I, we've got competing products, so to say. But if we can work together, why can't you guys work together? Stop taking and looking at it as adversaries and look at it as building yourself up through friendship and camaraderie, even with your competition. And I hope this stands to be an example of that. So gentlemen, thank you very much. Go out and have a great day. Enjoy some downtime this afternoon, and we will talk to you on the next episode. So take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renny. Thanks, Barry.
Yep. Thanks.